better person than I knew I was.
Hey folks, let's spend some time with some friends up north. I'm Ben Cominos from WHBY in Appleton. Joining us from WCPT in Chicago is Patty Vasquez, and from the Minocqua Brewing Company, here's Kirk Bankstead. We've got the usual suspects from our Substack page with us, as well as a special guest or two. Wherever you are, welcome, you're up north.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? This is Kirk Bankstead here with the Minocqua Brewing Company. We are resuming the Up North podcast because it's been on a bit of a hiatus. It's been super busy. I was running for governor. I got my beer confiscated by the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. It's been a busy couple weeks, but we are back with the Up North podcast, and we have a lot of information today. We have 4 segments. The first segment is going to be all about what happened in New York City last night and how that bodes for progressive candidates throughout the country and especially in Wisconsin. Then we'll go to commercial. The second segment, we're going to talk about our hearing, the Wisconsin or the Minocqua Brewing Company's hearing in Dane County to get our beer back. There's a lot to talk about there. Third, we are going to, in the third segment, and I'm going to write about this all tomorrow morning, we are finally relaunching our website, the Minocqua Marketplace, and there's really lots of great news to talk about there, and lots of connections to mutual aid in the areas that are suffering right now. Hello from New Hampshire. Hello from Chicagoland. I see you guys. Thank you for joining us. And then finally, in the last segment, we're going to talk about a really great addition to the Minocqua Brewing Company Times. Some of you probably know about this already, especially if those live in Northeast Wisconsin, Appleton, Oshkosh area. That gives you a little bit of a hint of what we're going to talk about. Okay, so let's move to the results of yesterday. So obviously, the Minocqua Brewing Company, we basically sell beer to support our activism, and politics is always number one for us. So we'll talk about what happened last night first. So in New York City, all of the candidates that were endorsed by the charismatic mayor Zoran Mamdani, who is a Democratic Socialist, the DSA party, the Democratic Socialists of America, is they operate within the umbrella of the Democratic Party, the nationwide Democratic Party, but they're not happy with the Democrats. They have kind of a different platform. And so Mamdani obviously surprised everybody, and he broke with the establishment and became the mayor. He endorsed 3 different congressional candidates, I believe, and all 3 of them won and beat the Democratic incumbents, which is very unusual. Most of the time, incumbents, within one party, kind of coast through Democratic primaries. So this was very unusual, and what it means to me as a couple things. At least let's talk about what it means in New York City, and then what it means kind of at large. So obviously, you have in New York City, we have the leader of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, is a congressman from New York. And then you have Chuck Schumer, who's the leader of the Senate, who is a senator from New York. And, they kind of represent the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. And what I say by corporate wing of the Democratic Party is, they kind of came of age after Citizens United, which is the Supreme Court case that gave us that flooded, politics with dark money. So they came of age knowing that they had to, basically shake hands with all these super PACs and dark money groups to get money to enable to win running for office. And so those are the types of politicians we got for the last 20 years. And those politicians are kind of like weaned to never fight back, to always kind of go be in a dark room and shake hands with somebody and say, how can I pat your back? How can you pat my back? And yes, that's exactly what the Republican Party is. But unfortunately, the corporate wing of the Democratic Party, they've proven that they're not fighters. They're not going to stand up strong. They're not going to shut government down when ICE is murdering folks in Minneapolis, in Chicago. And so normal Americans are sick of it. Normal Democrats are sick of it. And also they're sick of the, things never changing. If you vote for a Democrat, you vote for a Republican, the working class is still, it's harder to get by in the working class. And it's been like that for 20 years. And so they, that's why Bernie was so popular, 8 years ago, both with Democrats and kind of the MAGA world. And people want to change. They want their lives to get better. The Democratic Socialists are focused on telling the working class, these are the things we'll do to help you out. And the working class is listening because they're seeing their livelihoods, especially under Trump, just get harder and harder and harder. Prices are going up. Healthcare is hard to get, et cetera, et cetera. So that there's a fever for a kind of a revolutionary, let's kick all the bums out. And that fever was displayed last night in New York City. Now, what does that mean for the rest of America? New York City is a unique place. I lived there for 10 years. It's nothing like Wisconsin. So socialists, the word socialism scares the average Wisconsinite probably more than it scares. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there's a lot of rich people in New York City, and there's a lot of rich people, a lot of Jewish people in New York City, and those two groups really fear this kind of socialist, democratic socialism for different reasons. One is democratic socialists, want to tax the rich, and that's what Mamdani has done. He's done a pied-à-terre tax. If you own a second home that's gazillions of dollars in Manhattan, you got to pay big for that, and that's how he's funding a lot of the programs for the working class. So the rich just hate the fact that they don't have a politician on their side anymore. Now, the Jewish folks have a different problem. It's because a lot of these democratic socialist candidates are saying, and I agree with them, saying that this AIPAC lobbying group, and to a lesser degree J Street, AIPAC will fund any politician that says that they will do anything they can to support Israel, keep on funding Israel, sending arms to Israel. And they don't care about whether you're Republican or Democrat. I would argue they lean more to the right as a super PAC, but they just have gargantuan amounts of money. J Street is the kind of the pro-Israel lobbying group that's more left-leaning, but they still say on their website, they fully support funding Israel, almost to do whatever they want to do. Obviously, Israel is wreaking havoc in the Middle East right now. They're still terrorizing Palestine. A lot of people would argue there's a continued genocide there that we're just not seeing in the media. And obviously, they're bombing the crap out of Iran's allies, which is making it harder for us to get a ceasefire. So there's a good reason why Democratic Socialists are saying that they're refusing AIPAC money. They are condemning AIPAC for dipping their money into our politics and making even Democrats beholden to them, because it's very hard for politicians who get AIPAC money, like Cory Booker, like Schumer, like Hakeem Jeffries. It's very hard for them to say, look at what Netanyahu's doing. It's horrible. Let's stop that. Let's not fund that. It's hard for them to do that if they're getting tons of campaign dollars from a pro-Israel lobby. Now, as soon as I hang up today, as soon as I end my video, many people will call me an anti-Semite because I just said that, because that is the stock in trade for arguing. As soon as you argue about this kind of issue, you're called an anti-Semite. That's the way to silence criticism of Israel. And I'm not going to be silenced. And I have absolutely nothing. I've sung in synagogues. I've made my money when I was an opera singer singing in synagogues. Let's not get into the, I have friends who are Jewish kind of argument, but obviously I'm not an anti-Semite. So anyways, that happened in New York City. The corporate Democrats are saying that's just New York City. It can never happen anywhere else. Well, you have Graham Plattner, who the Democratic Party hates, who is now the key Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate in Maine. And that's a rural area. Now, granted, it's on the East Coast, and they're all a little more left over there than we are in Wisconsin. But you have this guy in Michigan running for U.S. Senate, I believe, like El Sayed, who's people are the Democratic Party's taking a punching him a lot. And so, but that's Michigan. That's close to us. Now, and you got another guy like Viega, I think, in rural California, which is kind of a red area. But of course, in Wisconsin, we have Francesca Hong. And I wanted to talk briefly about that. I was running for governor up until like 2 weeks ago when my slipshod campaign couldn't get enough signatures. We turned in enough signatures. I believe we did. We turned enough signatures, but they weren't done well enough. The people I hired to help me do this didn't dot their I's and cross their T's, and so we got administratively dinged. So I'm off the ballot, which arguably is a better thing because we're doing so much. We're going to be doing so much more with the Monopoly Brewing Company Times as a result. But so people are still saying, and I argued for about a month. I said Francesca Hong. I didn't say I didn't like what she stood for. I do. She says she's a democratic socialist. It's hard for me to call myself a democratic socialist because I own a business, and I hate government intervention into my business, as I will get to when we talk about my beer being seized. I'm no libertarian but I do think that government needs to treat small businesses differently than large corporations, and I think that probably bumps me out of socialism because I don't want I just don't think I'm that far left. But I do agree with a lot of what Francesca says, and what I did like about her was that I think she has her own mind. She hasn't been corrupted by special interests. She knows that we need to make big change in everywhere in America, in Wisconsin. What I'm a little bit worried about is that, she's not really running against Tom Tiffany, who is the Republican candidate. Tom Tiffany's a rubber stamp for Donald Trump. She's really running against Donald Trump and the Trump regime and what they send at Wisconsin to disrupt us, to potentially tear us apart, potentially destroy our democracy. I'm just going to have to believe that she has what it takes to stand up to the Trump regime. And before, I wasn't willing to believe it when I was running for governor myself. I obviously wanted it to be me, but I think in time, she could learn. Obviously she's tough. She's a tough cookie. In a small package, but a tough cookie. And then the other thing, my reservations were, she's to be a governor, you need executive experience with, I think, large organizations. And I don't know if she's got it, but when looking at the whole slate of candidates and when seeing what just happened in New York City, there is a thirst for somebody who is not willing to say what they mean, not willing to pull their punches, not willing to say that AIPAC is bad, willing to get accused of, going against the grain in the Democratic Party. The only person that's running right now is Francesca Hong that fits that bill. I was running and now I'm not. And the only other person I would ever endorse would be Kelda Royce. I believe her heart is in the right place as well. But I also believe that, I talked to her. I try to get her to care about election protection. And And at the end of the day, she wouldn't really talk to me about it. So, which means she's protecting. She doesn't want her message to get leaked. She wants to protect her image. She wants to protect herself for the general election. And that worked 10 years ago, but it doesn't work anymore. You have to tell people what you're feeling. You have to tell them exactly how you feel. People just don't want to be, be given the runaround. So I think Francesca's the one, and that's why we're officially endorsing her today. I mentioned that earlier today in a post, and we're the Monaco Brewing Company and the Monaco Brewing Company Times is officially endorsing Francesca Hong. We feel that the Democratic Socialists, this wave of excitement that's bringing in the kids, is something that we should grab onto, because it can usher in potentially real change in Wisconsin, and that real change will hopefully help the working class, which has been ignored for so long. Okay, so that is the first segment. We're going to go to a commercial so I can sell you some of my stuff, and then we're going to go to talk about what happened at our hearing to try to get our beer back that the Department of Revenue confiscated. So stay tuned.
Okay. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of Progressive beer. The Monaco Brewing Company sells Progressive beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy Progressive beer, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC hop water. 0 alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC hop water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. That's thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Brewing Company, who sells Progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get Progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. The Monaco Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the MonacoMarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's MonacoMarketplace.com and use the promo code UpNorth.
Okay, everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to the Up North podcast with Kirk Bangstead. I'm going to talk a lot more about the rest of the gang and how we're going to be doing things going forward in the third and fourth segments. But in this segment, I wanted to update you all on what happened at our hearing yesterday to get our beer back. So to catch you up, probably 2 Thursdays ago, the Wisconsin Department of Revenue seized the beer that I had made in Illinois from both of our tap rooms. And to back you up on why they did that, we made beer in Illinois because the Wisconsin Department of Revenue years ago told us that we couldn't sell our beer online from Wisconsin to either Wisconsinites or to anybody around the country. And we have a really unique company here because we have a really large social media following it's not just Wisconsin. It's all throughout the country. But we also, because I'm so liberal, I can't get distributors. I can't get the next tier of the beer, of the alcohol distribution system to work with me. Everybody thinks I'm nuts. So I can't get my beer to people around the country unless I can send it to them online. And the Wisconsin liquor laws forbid that. So I went down to Illinois. I made friends with a wonderful brewery, a small little brewery that just makes great beer. And I asked them to help me make beer so that I could send it to people throughout the country. So they've been doing that, but obviously they make great beer, and I can't make, I can't have only one, I only can have one brewery. Like, we make certain beer in Wisconsin and they make other beer. And I want, in my tap rooms, I want to like give everybody all the beer that we make. So, I thought, and I still believe today that I contracted that beer. And so it's my beer. And the Department of Revenue said, because it's across state lines, it's not my beer. It's the other brewery's beer. And that because it wasn't my beer, I couldn't sell it in my tap rooms. And we are arguing that in court. But we were kind of going back for months and saying, guys, we don't want to go to court over this, because here is this law called Granholm, which is a law that says that out-of-state producers of alcohol should be given the same benefits that in-state producers are given. And we showed it to him clearly that said, by dinging us, you're going to be breaking this Supreme Court precedent. Well, they didn't listen to us. And so ultimately push came to shove, and they decided to confiscate our beer. And they did. And so they did that 2 weeks ago. And we immediately filed a lawsuit against them the next day, an emergency injunction. Unfortunately, in Dane County. So this is the most progressive county in Wisconsin. The judges here are a feeding ground, or feeding ground. I don't know. For Supreme Court justices, appellate court justices. We have a lot of smart. This is where University of Wisconsin-Madison is. So this is where you go to law school, or Marquette University in Milwaukee. But we got a lot of smart judges here in Dane County, and they often lean a little left. And so we're happy. We sued in Dane County, and now we got a guy named Judge Brian Jones, who used to be corporate counsel for the Department of Public Instruction. We've bent over backwards to try to help public schools, in Wisconsin, as part of our mission. So I was like, yeah, I'm good with this guy. So we did an emergency injunction with this judge. Our hearing was yesterday. Luckily, we found out through a couple of the filings from the defendant, who happens to be the Department of Justice, because we sued the Department of Revenue, and the Department of Justice has lawyers to defend the state. We sued the Department of Revenue. In their briefings, they said that our beer is being stored in a temperature-controlled warehouse, which was a huge relief to me, because it means that our beer is gonna not go bad, for months. It's just kind of like our beer sitting on the shelves in a Woodman's or something. So we're happy with that. But so we went to this hearing on Tuesday, yesterday at 9 a.m. in the morning, and the result was bad. We did not get the injunction. We did not win, and we did not get our beer back. We had submitted, when we sued them, we had submitted a small brief, an emergency brief. We had to turn something around in 24 hours, try to getting our beer back. Because the Department of Justice had a week to prepare, they submitted 74 pages, and they listed literally every tiny little thing that I've done wrong, over the last 5 years, to the tune of trolls call the Department of Health against us. One time somebody said, "Would you ever spit in a MAGA person's drink?" And then I responded on Facebook. I said, "Try us." Well, anyway, somehow or another, they latched onto that, and they called the Department of Health. And I had 5 calls, complaints that I was spitting in people's beer. And so this is what the Department of Justice kind of rolled out to the judge. It said, "Look at all these complaints against this brewery. Obviously they're doing something wrong over there." I'm like, that's not at all why you seized my beer. You seized my beer because you're telling us that we have no avenue to make beer in Illinois and bring it up and serve it in my tap rooms. Now, I'll tell you why that's wrong. So, and I wrote about this morning in my Facebook post. So if I miss anything, you can read it there. So our argument was, if I contracted a brewery to make my beer in Wisconsin, a Wisconsin brewery, I would be, and they made it for me, I would be able to serve it in my tap room. If I contract a brewer in Illinois, like I'm doing right now, to make beer for me, I can't serve it in my tap room, which means that that's an exact violation of the Dormant Commerce Clause of the 21st Amendment of the Constitution. And the reason it's a violation is because there was a case called Granholm versus Heald in Michigan that went to the Supreme Court, and that said that as long, states can't pass laws that protect industries within the state to the detriment of industries outside of the state. And so, what the law is in Wisconsin is that an Illinois brewery can't be contracted to make beer. Now, it's my beer. I've signed a contract and I paid for it, and we send them our recipes, and it's our intellectual property, and it is, for all intents and purposes, my beer. It just made in a latitude and longitude lower than Wisconsin law allows. So we think we have a case, but this judge was learning liquor laws as we were talking to him. I mean, they're very complex. So, he was learning liquor laws, very complex. He was inundated with all these other things, the litany of other things that the Department of Justice attorney was trying to hit us with. And he ultimately said, there's too much here. You're not going to go bankrupt if, this beer sits there. So, you can, so he didn't give us what we wanted. So what we're doing is, we knew this was going to happen when my beer was seized 2 weeks ago. We just started making a ton of beer in Wisconsin. And by July 10th, we're going to hit this 250 barrel limit, which is an arbitrary law that was passed like over a year ago, but not much more, with these new liquor laws in Wisconsin that said in order to serve wine, cider, and other people's beer in a tap room, you have to be able to make 250 barrels on your own. We can do that. We easily do that every single year. So, but my production was happening in Illinois because I'm selling a lot of beer online in Illinois. So long story short, we're making a ton of beer in the state of Wisconsin. So we should be able to hit that 250 threshold. And by that reason, even if they won't allow us to call it my beer, this Illinois beer, we can still import it to sell at our tap room. And so we'll ultimately get that beer back. And so what we're going to do is we're going to file an amended emergency complaint as soon as we make that 250 barrels of beer. And hopefully, and that's within 20 days of this ruling, we are allowed to ask the judge to reconsider based on new evidence. And the new evidence is going to be that, gosh darn it, we've made 250 barrels. You can't ding us anymore. So that's our solution. By the way, it's going to be called F the DOR is the name of this new beer that we've created. We're going to make a t-shirt. It's pretty funny. There's one thing I want to talk about before I go to break. There is no reason why my company, which is a less than a $2 million revenue company, and breweries can be hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm on the smaller to smallest side of the brewery industry in Wisconsin, because I'm so political. There is always a target on my back, and I know that. But the trolls call in and complain about us to the government, saying we're doing bad things. Distributors call in and complain because I'm not using distributors and I'm still alive after 5 years. But we also think that there is somebody in the Department of Revenue, surely the Department of Justice. I have gone after Josh Call for not protecting democracy and not taking all the fraudulent electors to court time and time again over the last 5 years. I've railed against him. I begged other people to run against him for attorney general. So it is not a surprise that the Department of Justice came guns a-blazing against us with like a 70-page brief, like just listing a litany of tiny little things that they wanted to like make us look bad to the judge. I don't know who's telling what to do whom in the Department of Justice, but I know I have no friends in the Department of Justice, and I do think we need an overhaul. We need to get Josh Call out of there. The Department of Revenue is, I've been picking on Tony Evers for being weak for forever. I mean, we need to be talking about Trump stealing our elections. Indivisible just came out with this huge thing about our elections going to be stolen. I've been talking about this for a year. The Nation, which is a left-leaning magazine, said there's a slow-rolling coup attempt happening. Just today, I read that the U.S. Postal Service has been directed not to deliver absentee ballots to the states who haven't turned over our voter rolls to the federal government. Well, as soon as we turn over our voter rolls to the federal government, they're going to feed it into AI. They're going to figure out who the Democrats are, and they're going to find some reason to kick all the Democrats off the voter rolls right before the election. So it is obvious that this is that this is going to be a bad deal. It's obvious that that Evers is not talking about it. None of the Democratic candidates for governor are talking about it either, and I've been talking about it for a year. So that's why I've been railing against Evers, and that's why I think somebody who might be loyal to him or he himself has just told the Department of Revenue to give me no mercy and to come after me. So that is the results and our plan going forward for beer. I am going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about this new thing that we're going to release tomorrow with the Monaco Marketplace. I'll be with you in a short few minutes.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Monaco Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to monacomarketplace.com and go to apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to monacomarketplace.com and typing in promo code UPNORTH. That's monacomarketplace.com, promo code UPNORTH. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Monaco Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at monacomarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to monacomarketplace.com and typing in promo code UPNORTH. That's monacomarketplace.com, promo code UPNORTH. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC hop water. Zero alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC hop water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. That's thc.monacobrewingcompany.com. The Monaco Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the monacomarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's monacomarketplace.com and use the promo code UPNORTH.
Okay, we are back to talk about the Monaco Marketplace. So here's I'm really excited because we've been working on this since probably February. So the Monaco Marketplace, just let everybody know, it's our e-commerce site that we've started that only allows companies to participate and sell their goods if they've signed a pledge to never donate to MAGA extremism, the Trump regime. So we got about 100 companies now that are selling all their products on our site, but one of the things that we realized that in order to get bigger, it's tough for people to buy. We have all these different companies, but they're fulfilling all of their goods from their own houses or warehouses or whatever. So if you want to buy a bunch of different things, your shipping costs are going to go through the roof, which we realized, kind of over the holidays, that people were complaining and like, yeah, I want to buy all this stuff, but I'm not going to pay this much for shipping coming from all over the country. So we did a Kickstarter campaign and we raised about $250,000 in February. Thanks to all those who are watching who kicked in for that. The reason we did a Kickstarter is because I can't expand my business by getting loans because I can't get investors. We're too political to get venture capital loans. You need to raise the kind of money we need to grow. We have to go to people. It's people power. We've been people powered from day one. So we raised this money and we were able to, and it took a while to sort. We found a warehouse in Pennsylvania that is owned by a progressive family who want to help. That took a while to find. And we got the data from my friend Brian Potts, who's a lawyer here in Madison, but he owns the Goods Unite Us, which is it's this database that tells about the political giving of the C-suite of various companies, the Fortune 500 companies in America, all the way down to even smaller companies. They have a huge database that show where the MAGA companies are. It shows what companies are bending the knee to Trump. And so we integrated, with his data, and we're starting to now sell products that from our warehouse that are going to be like everyday items. So like stuff that everybody needs to buy, like toilet paper. We're going to start with toilet paper. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But we're going to go to like toothpaste. We're going to go to, cleaning supplies, garbage bags. We're going to slowly but surely hit every single aspect of the grocery aisle with the necessities, but we're going to carry stuff that will allow you to boycott or you'll buy products, but you'll know that you're not spending money on those products with a company that's bent the knee to Trump. So the first thing we're going to do is the Koch brothers are the worst. They helped get us into this mess because they funded the Tea Party that fueled this crazy right-wing populism, which kind of brought us to Trump. And now the dragon is the leopard is eating the Republicans' faces, but the Koch brothers are pretty evil. And they own Georgia Pacific, which makes a lot of toilet paper and paper towels. So our first foray into selling items from our own warehouse, which reduces the cost of them, is we're selling Who Gives a Crap toilet paper made with bamboo, which is renewable. And we made a partnership with those guys to resell their products. And so slowly but surely, we're going to get a bunch of folks in the influencer world to try to spread the word that when you buy products from us, you're not going to be spending money with folks who bend the knee to Trump. But this is the kicker, and this is something that I'm really excited about. So we were we've been involved in the resistance for since Trump was reelected. We call it the resistance. We started at a nerve center in our first tap room in Madison, thinking that the stormtroopers were coming, and they haven't really hit Wisconsin like they've hit the Twin Cities and Chicago yet. But so I've gotten to know people both influencers and just people on the ground in the Twin Cities and in Chicago and in throughout Wisconsin. And we are making the connections right now to basically, as we grow, we want to make sure that no one's going to get rich at the Monaco Brewing Company. Everyone needs to get paid a good salary, but we're not going to we're going to try to give as much of the profits of what we're selling to the in the Monaco marketplace to mutual aid efforts to those on the front lines of the violence happening at these ICE detention centers, which is like Whipple Detention Center in the Twin Cities. It's Broadview in Chicago. It's Delaney Hall in New Jersey. That the ones we see about every day. There's ongoing issues in Milwaukee and in Madison with ICE, but there's, it's not in the news every day that there's these detention centers that people are, having hunger strikes and everything. So we're going to keep Wisconsin, in our thoughts, but we're going to start making monthly donations to the folks who can get mutual aid to the actual protesters who are fighting. And that is, that's exciting for me, because that's the whole reason we're doing this whole thing. The whole reason I'm on video right now is that the Monaco Brewing Company Times is our effort to get to help break down the news and politics, what's happening on our world, to help it break down with a progressive lens in the Midwest, especially the rural Midwest. And that's what we're doing. And so that costs money. This whole thing is fed by people's subscriptions on Substack, but it's also fed by selling beer, and it's also fed by selling other people's stuff on the marketplace. But we want to. The goal is to give it back and build and be able to fund, the resistance movement that will hopefully keep fascism and Trump from becoming a dictator. And so it's kind of a self-serving loop. You buy stuff from us, I get your email, then I email you news from from our Substack. It's and then you go and get all energetic and you go protest at these detention centers, and then we donate, so you can get saline solution to wipe the pepper spray out of your eyes. So hopefully it's like this loop that keeps on giving, and we're part of it. And on like the business side, everybody has to do their own bit to contribute to the resistance effort. And our effort is disseminating political analysis and hopefully giving some of our profits to mutual aid. Okay, that's our announcement for Monaco Marketplace. I have one more thing to tell you after our next commercial break. And so stick around. This one is kind of the coolest one. So we'll be back in a little bit.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of progressive beer. The Monaco Brewing Company sells progressive beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy progressive beer, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Monaco Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MonacoMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MonacoMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MonacoMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Brewing Company, who sells progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MonacoBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Monaco Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MonacoMarketplace.com and go to Apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MonacoMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MonacoMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. Okay, we are back with the Up North podcast. And this is
kind of we're saving arguably the best for last. I'm gonna talk about this in my essay on Sunday, but we are making big changes with the Monaco Brewing Company Times Substack page. Probably because I didn't get on the ballot for governor, and now I have more time. But something happened this week that I think is going to make the Monaco Brewing Company Times. It's going to launch us into a different kind of thing, and it's going to be a bigger and better thing. And the news is that Ben Cominos, who was he wrote an article for us every single Tuesday, and he was one of the regular contributors to the Up North podcast. He was laid off of his job at WHBY in Appleton, Wisconsin. And WHBY is a tiny little station that does talk radio. And they laid him off. I want to have Ben be able to tell his own story. Obviously, Ben was very progressive in how in his show, and he did his show from like 9 to 11 every single day, called Outside the Box, and he was very progressive. But obviously, when Biden was in office, he didn't love Biden either, because Biden was a corporate Democrat. So maybe the powers that be thought he was more centrist than he was. Who knew? But he got political, and WHBY laid him off, and they kind of made a managerial statement that said, we are avoiding politics in our talk radio. So obviously, unfortunately, Ben got laid off, but WHBY's loss is the Monaco Brewing Company Times gain, because Ben gave me a call. And since I'm not running for governor, and Ben wasn't writing for us because he wanted to remain impartial while I was running for governor. And so he stopped writing for us while I was running for governor. But now that I'm not, he gave me a call. He's like, Kirk, I'm yours if you want me. And so we have hired Ben Cominos to do his show on our Substack page from 9 to 11 from Monday through Friday, which is now we're going to have like a radio show every day. And not only that, when Patty Vasquez heard that Ben was going to be doing his show from 9 to 11, and Patty Vasquez is our writer, and she's a talk show host from WCPT 820 AM in Chicago. She convinced her producer to let her show be aired on our Substack page every day from 5 to 7. So now our Substack page, which is mostly, me writing, we're writing essays and sending emails to people with kind of thought-provoking political analysis. We're going to have basically like a radio station here, because Ben's going to talk for 2 hours. Patty's going to talk for 2 hours. And this is an opportunity, and we gotta figure this out. So if any businesses out there watching, we have to pay these guys, to do this on our Substack page. And so we need to find sponsors. I can't sell, I can't sell as much beer as it's going to cost these guys. So we need to find other people that we can put ads on this show in order to fund it. But I'm excited because now, we're going to be the only progressive, radio station / content company in Wisconsin. Like Civic Media is this big, they own a bunch of radio stations. These guys are corporate Democrats. Their whole goal is to dumb down their content so people who don't vote might try to vote Democrat, and vote left. And that's not what I'm all about. I want to present the highest level political analysis and content that I possibly can. And I want the smartest people I can get to be on this platform to talk about stuff. So I don't want to dumb things down for voters who don't care. I want to be able to help educate and help motivate and get people organized. for the resistance. So Ben and Patty are going to now do this radio show. We're going to subscribe. We're all going to do these office hours in the middle of the day. And I'm going to do my Up North podcast earlier than 6 o'clock because Patty is going to be live on Wednesday. So I'm going to do my podcast earlier. Patty's going to do this thing, an office hour thing, and Ben is too. And even Michael Yoakum, who's the drummer, this old drummer for Korn, is a session drummer for Jackson Browne and so many records you've heard. He may do a live show too. And we're gonna do these. We're gonna do private shows for our paying subscribers in the middle of the day. So if you're a paying subscriber, there's going to be video from like 9 to 7 at night. So that's an exciting new twist for us, and it all happened because Ben was laid off. And so to me, I was like, I got to figure out a way to fund this. And it's going to be hard because, the Department of Revenue is after me and we got to pay lawyers, and I got to figure out how to sell sponsorships to be able to fund Ben. If anybody has any thoughts or wants to do that, email us at info@monoclebrewingcompany.com. But anyways, I'm very excited for that. And that's our announcement. This Substack page has been ranked top 50 in the U.S. political Substack pages in the country on numerous occasions over the last year. I think we are luckily able to grow as long as I stay out of jail with the Department of Revenue coming after me for bogus stuff. As long as I can keep my nose clean, I really think that we're going to be able to help educate and help keep everyone up to date on the news that's no longer being reported because our mainstream media is failing us. So that's the update. That's all I have for you today. It's been an hour. I didn't even think I could last for an hour. I thought it was gonna be a half hour. I'm very long-winded. So thanks all for joining. We will be back probably earlier next Wednesday. And I don't know I'll hopefully announce when that's going to happen, but we're going to be back every Wednesday. And then Patty's going to be doing her thing on Mondays, Ben's Tuesdays, and both of them are going to be doing live shows every day. Okay, folks, thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.